There's two types of people. One type is they just cannot relax until all the chores are done. And then the second type is they can only do chores after relaxing, and they marry each other.
I love your bit butts.
My friend April, she used to make beauty content. To those who follow her, you will know she is like the queen of tidying. Sometimes she posts like clean with me videos, and oh my god, like, I think I've always taken pride that my home is quite tidy. But when I saw her cleaning videos, I went to bed quite frustrated because I felt like, oh my goodness, my house is so dirty. I need to clean it the way April does. So yeah, I came home and immediately just flipped the house. Like, I steamed every corner, just changed all the bed sheets, cleaned the windows. Yeah, really tackled my oven, just cleaning inside like the microwaves, the bathrooms, everything. There's a saying, there's two types of people. One type is they just cannot relax until all the chores are done. And then the second type is they can only do chores after relaxing, and they marry each other, and it cannot be more true. What you guys didn't know is when I was working on this leaf yesterday, because there's so much downtime waiting for the layers to dry, I was actually alternating between this and my entry last night, which is this little autumnal shelf. I recently got this Lily Grass book, and she shares how to create your own shelf, but except with like witchy elements. But I thought I will do my own like autumnal shelf, and I was thinking what would be in my shelf. Well, I've had a lot of tea, we've done a lot of baking, a lot of reading, so this is what we have. Okay, so I'm just gonna talk you through my process. So as always, I sketch out my idea first. I sketch out the shelf and then decide what products to put on it or items. Maybe yours can look different. Perhaps you have candles, perhaps you've got flowers, ornaments, crystals, whatever you like. Once I'm happy with my sketch, I just take my micron fine liner and I just go over my sketch. Now, I just line as it is. If you're just starting off, you might want to start with the items at the front before you start outlining the items at the back. As I'm doing outlining, I'm also making little marks here and there, little lines, just to make it look more three-dimensional. Now it's time for me to start adding some color. When I think of autumn, I think of like really rich colors. So for my shelf, I decided to use like a red toned brown. My first layer is always going to be more light because with watercolor we want to gradually build up the intensity. So while it's still wet, I add a bit more brown to that mixture so it's slightly darker, and I just dip in areas just to give that wood effect in the base as well, so it creates more of a shadow effect. Obviously, when you think of wood, it's not just one color, right? It's all the different tones that gives it that nice natural effect. Here you can see again, I'm just intensifying that lower area of my shelf, and I'm going to go ahead and add it to the bottom parts. Again, always starting off light and then gradually increasing the intensity. For the pumpkin, I'm using more of a yellowy color as the base because we want it to look nice and bright. I'm gonna go ahead and take a slightly bolder color, and while it's wet, I'm just adding it into the sunken areas of the pumpkin. As always, the first layer is always going to be light, and then I take a deeper red and I just pop it near the base just to make it look a bit more three-dimensional. And while I'm working with that color, I might as well apply it to other parts of the painting where I might be using that color. So with a more concentrated color, I use that for the lid of my jam jar. I was quite undecided with the color of my utensil container, so I popped like a warm tone gray, but you'll see I end up changing it later, which is why it's important to start with a lighter color because, hey, if you don't know, you can always change your mind later. You can see for my second book, I've painted it green, and as always, I go back with a deeper shade just to give it more dimension. For the stained glass lump, you want to keep the colors quite transparent, so make sure there's a lot of water in the paint because you don't want it to look heavy at all. Again, I've just opted for very autumnal colors. I went for yellow. I went for a nice green, reds. General, you want to keep like a certain palette. You don't want to just have lots of random colors, otherwise your art won't look as synced. For example, for the stand of my lamp, I went for that golden ochre color we use for the pumpkin, and for the shadow I used that darker red. For the jam jar, I just made a very dark black by adding red to it. For the bag of flour, I just use blue. As always, a nice light layer, and then gradually adding a bit of shadow. I've decided for the light to come from the left, so it means the right side of the products are gonna have more of a shadow casted on them. And then for the utensils, again, I'm just trying my best to use the existing colors already being used, like the ochre for the wooden spoons and the spatula. With the red color I used for the book earlier, I'm going to add it to the shelf just by making little swishy motions with my brush just to make more wood-like impressions. To bring the shelf out a little bit, I'm just taking a slightly darker brown and just adding shadows in areas where I think it needs. As you can see, I'm just continuing to deepen the shadows on the items. You'll also see later I end up adding a couple books behind the lamp just to fill up some of that negative space to make it look a bit more cozy. And then for the scones, I used my ochre color before, like I used for my pumpkin, and then the lamp stand, and then again deepening it up with a nice rich brown. I'm very mindful, even though there are areas I want to deepen up, I don't want the colors to look dull, so it's still deepening up with nice vibrant colors. At this point, we're just adding more details, giving more character to the books, and you'll see later I would have wrote jam and flour on the labels. I would have added some jam to the scones, just little nice details. You can see I also made the little pumpkin a green color and deepened the color of the utensil jar as well. I use my Micron brush liner just to really deepen up that shadow on that shelf where all the items are sitting on. Impression of like the woodwork. And then I'm just gonna add some nails here, maybe. I don't really want my background to be so white, so I might regret this, you know, but I'm just gonna apply a slight wash just so it looks a bit more antique-y in the background. Make sure your painting is completely dried before doing this step, otherwise some areas are going to smudge, as you can see, but nothing a little quick fix can't solve. The very last thing I do then is take my white gel pen, add some highlights, use it to create the cream of the scones, and yeah, I just think it creates a nice touch, brings the items out, really makes it three-dimensional, and we are done. Alright, so that's my autumnal illustrative shelf. So the kids are at school. I don't know how people are so good that they can do one job a week and that's it. So I usually grab the groceries on Sunday, right? So I can get enough to make lunch and everything. And then I'll do like a big midweek run. But then I always forget something, so I'll always go back to grab something. I'm feeling a bit tired today. I don't know if it's like the full moon or whatever. I was trying to find like a coat for Ayla, and hers is hanging over there. But then I saw there was one 11 to 12 years old, and it happens to fit me perfectly. It's just from Sainsbury's. It's like fleece lined, it's shower resistant, it's lightweight, and because it's from the kids aisle, it's only £20 for myself. Like a red sweater, because everything is 20% off today, and I think red goes quite well with my skin tone. Just some trainers for on the go when I'm doing like the school runs. Yeah, for today's soup broth, we got ribs. You can always use chicken instead if you wish, but I find chicken makes the soup base quite oily. I've got carrots, I've got hapjangwa. I love chow chow, you guys know that. I've got some watercress. There's red dates, loganberries, goji berries. So much flavor. Oh, you know what? Isaac turned 11 in August. I feel like the little pre-teen changes are definitely happening. God knows how long, every day, Isaac would come back from school and he would always change out of his uniform. He doesn't like it. This term, I've noticed he would just keep his uniform on and he's just not as bothered. And he's always been the type to wake up and automatically brush his teeth, get changed, sit for breakfast. And I realized this year he is starting to struggle waking up in the morning. And it's not that he's sleeping less, I just feel like it's taking a toll out of him. But see, when he was really young, when he was 5 years old, oh my goodness, the best manners. Like you'll not meet a child with better manners than Isaac. And I don't know if it's just like little influences in school and they kind of drop it a little bit. He still has his manners, but you know, it's not like how he was when he was little. He was like an old man. He used to automatically go straight to practice piano, and I find like lately I've kind of needed to remind him, and he'd be like, oh, he'll do the things, but there's just more, oh, I'm sensing little changes.